Hi guys, hope you're all okay. Today I'm doing a requested video. A lot of you kind of asked for me to do my birth and labour story, or Reuben's story. I'm guessing everybody knows now, but if you don't know, I had a baby. He's right here. Say hello, Reuben. Hi. The reason I look like this is because Reuben has decided we're not having a nap today. He normally naps every 2.5 hours. I normally get like a bit of a nap out of him. We have a bot and he goes to sleep. Not today. He has been wide. Well, no, that's not true. He'll sleep very comfortably in my arms today. But he's got such a cheeky look on his face. Every time I lie him down in his cot, he decides that he doesn't want to be there. I've tried him in both because we have a big cot in his room. Nursery tour is going to happen. It's not finished yet though. And then we have another cot in our room. He doesn't like either of those today. He just wants to be held, which is fine. I'm happy to do that. But yeah, as such, there is no makeup, and you know. We're sat like this because if I sit up here, it's a weird angle. So this is how we're sitting. This is probably going to be a long video, so I recommend you get a brew. I don't have a brew, but I do have half a bot because he's only taken half because he's being cheeky today. But yes, a lot of you guys asked for the birth labour story, so I thought I would share that with you. It's very warm in here today. So kind of starting from the beginning, I guess, Reuben's official due date was the 2nd of October. Obviously with an IVF baby, you know your due date for definite because that's how it is with an IVF baby. However, we were told very early on that the 2nd of October wouldn't happen, as in the catchment, we live in Cornwall, so kind of the way that the NHS were down here, there may be different things in different parts of the county because different NHS trusts have different rules and guidelines, but down here they've said because mixture of things, but IVF pregnancy, we were deemed a high risk pregnancy, that they wouldn't let us go full term and we would be induced. So we were expecting Reuben last week of September, and we were told that very early on. Mixture of reasons for that is there are studies that show IVF babies, there's a correlation between IVF babies and placenta issues, which is why they like to induce, and then, you know, high risk pregnancy, age, my medical history, my BMI. So yeah. And we were quite comfortable with that, you know, we followed what our midwife was recommending to us. So even though due date was 2nd of October, we were expecting last week of September. Oh, yes. Yes. So on the Sunday, the 23rd of August, are you a bit warm, buddy? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Oh. So yes, Sunday the 23rd of August, I went to visit my mum. So we were both told to isolate for, obviously I was pregnant and my mum has her own stuff. So this was really the first time we were allowed to be in the same room together since March. So I went up and surprised her on the train. My mum still lives in Cornwall. It's just about an hour's drive. So I went to go and surprise her and we had a lovely day. Saw lots of my nieces and one of my sisters, and it was very pleasant. And it was really the only time that my family had seen my bump because, as I say, I hadn't seen hardly anybody since March, February, where I wasn't really showing. So yeah, lovely day. And it was about somewhere after 5. And it was just me and my mum left at my mum's house, and we were just drinking tea and chatting, and I had a funny like pain, and I just thought Reuben had moved, So I stood up and gosh, waters broke. And I just thought I'd wet myself. And I'm not easily embarrassed, especially in my family, especially in front of my mum. So it's kind of like, Mum, I think I've wet myself. And we both kind of laughed. My mum still lives in the house I grew up in, like she's lived there since before I was born, and it's like making all these jokes. Oh, you've not wet yourself in this house for a while. I went to the loo. My mum's got bathrooms upstairs and downstairs. Went to the loo, and after a while of still being in the loo, my mum was like, I think your water's broken. This is too, it's not normal to wee this long. So, ring 111. I'm 34 weeks pregnant at this point. The people at 111 wanted to call me back because there's a main hospital in Cornwall called Royal, everyone calls it Trelisk, but it's called like the Royal Cornwall Hospital or something. But near where my mum lives, there's also like a little hospital called Penrice, and they actually do a lot of maternity stuff in Cornwall, but they don't tend to do high risk pregnancies. So like if you have very like if you're on like your third baby and you have had very healthy pregnancies, you get to go to Penrice, and it's meant to be a lovely hospital, but yeah, us awkward women don't get to go there. But 111 didn't know where I was to go, so they were going to ring me back. So I rang John, and I think at first he thought I was winding him up. I said, I think, it sounds like my waters are broken, you need to come to mum straight away. So he gets to mum's. I must admit, I think I was the calmest between John, my mum and me, waiting for 111 to call us back. So they give us a ring back. They say we have to go to the main hospital in Truro, and I need to have my overnight bag and my green maternity folder, which you all get given at your first maternity midwife appointment. I didn't have any of these things with me because I'm 34 weeks pregnant. I didn't even have a hospital stroke baby bag at that stage. Wasn't organised because the plan was to do it once I started my maternity leave, which I wasn't due to do for another week. So rushed off to Trelisk, or the hospital in Truro. Waters continuing to break, which nobody warned me about. It wasn't something I was aware of, that your waters continue to break, but mine did continuously. Get to the hospital, John's not allowed in. Now it's quite clear, I've got a very large bump at this stage, water pouring out of me. I had jeans on, so it was very visible, and the poor security guard was like, I can see, but you're not allowed in. Your husband's not allowed in until you're in established labour. So luckily this nurse comes down. And she's like, tells John, go get your wife's green folder. Go get her an overnight bag and get back here, and we should have some more information for you. So John goes. I got to the delivery suite. I'm not in any pain at this point. It's literally just water continuing to gush out of me. So they take me to the delivery suite, strap me up to a monitor so we can hear Reuben's heartbeat, confirm that my waters have broken. It's like, well, I've not been peeing myself for almost an hour and a half at this point. Confirm that my waters have broken, and they just wanted to monitor me for a bit. John gets back from picking up some stuff, like my folder and like trying to put together a baby bag, but let's say, or a hospital bag. The people in the delivery suite are like, your waters are definitely broken, but you've not got any contractions. There were pains there, like showing up on the computer, on the monitor, but they weren't deemed contractions. And they were like, you might give birth tonight, you might give birth tomorrow, you have to go down onto the ward. And because of the whole COVID thing, John had been allowed in the delivery suite at that point, but mostly because the nurses have been very kind to us, because technically you're not allowed in, or husbands aren't allowed in, until you are 4 centimetres dilated. I was no centimetres dilated, but they let him in because my waters had broken and they were quiet. Yeah. So we had to do some tests where we had to do like a COVID test, and I had to have some steroid injections to help for Reuben's lungs in case he did come early. So we were up in the delivery suite for a while being monitored, but then I had to go down to the ward, and John had to go home. And they kept me on the ward for, this was a Sunday, I got to leave on the Wednesday, and they were just monitoring me. The entire time my waters were still breaking. Apparently this happens to 5 in every 100 women. Lucky me. But yeah, so that kind of, the pains were still happening, but they weren't close enough together to be deemed contractions. So they sent me home with antibiotics. I'd had a few more steroid injections whilst I'm in the hospital, but they sent me home and said, you know, you could come back tonight. It's when, you know, if things could start happening, but it's unlikely because you've not dilated at all the entire time you're in the, from the Monday to, sorry, from the Sunday to the Wednesday. We're booking you in to be induced on the 11th of September. So it's like, oh, okay. So I went home. I actually had an appointment with my own midwife at a local surgery, like the Wednesday. So I went and saw her, and still, every time I walked, water's still breaking. Every time I moved, gushes of water. It was not pleasant. It was, ugh. So she informed me at this appointment that, you know, I was fine, he was fine. But she did tell me because my waters had broken, it was very likely that any movement he made would be painful, because obviously you don't have as much water cushioning things, padding. So don't be surprised if you were in a bit of discomfort, and just to take pain relief, like paracetamol pain relief, and you'll be fine. So that was that. So then on the Thursday morning, about something past 2 a.m, I woke up in quite a bit of pain, to the point where I woke John up, and John was like, is it a contraction? And I was like, no, I think it's just Reuben moving, because obviously we knew Reuben was Reuben then, and we hadn't announced that Reuben was a boy. It was something else that was going to happen after when I started maternity leave, but you know, he had different plans. And yeah, and basically John was decorating the nursery that day. I was just trying to relax and try to get some sleep, because obviously you don't sleep while you're staying in hospital because it's noisy. And I was having on and off pains throughout the day, but like John was, we were monitoring them and writing them down, and they were really sporadic. They were like, they might be an hour in between, they might be 15 minutes in between, then the next one was 45 minutes. So there was no pattern, and they weren't lasting very long. And obviously everything you read tells you you have to be, well, they recommend that you don't go into hospital until your contractions are 5 minutes apart. So I was like, I wasn't sure if it was Braxton Hicks or if it was just the whole, because I've lost all my fluid, it was pain of Reuben moving. And then we got to like 6 o'clock at night, and they were getting really painful, and John got a bit panicked. He's like, right, like since middle of the afternoon, he's like, I think we need to ring the hospital. And I was like, no, I don't want to go in there just to be sent home or put on the ward. They're not close enough together. But at 6 o'clock, John was like, you're in a lot of pain, we need to ring somebody. So again, rang the hospital. They wanted to speak to me, and while I was talking to them, I had another of the pains, and they were like, I think you should come in and we can check. So we get to the hospital, this time with a hospital bag and my notes, a lot more organised. John wasn't allowed in, he had to wait in the car park. Unfortunately, we got there just in time for the nurses' changeover. So I got there at 8, and I got told to sit in a corridor and wait till the next shift come in. Luckily, a very nice cleaner, male cleaner, kind of found me at one point. I'm in like half on a chair, half on a knee on the floor, in quite a bit of pain, crying. And he went and got me a nurse, because as I say, the nurses were on changeover, so nobody wanted to take ownership of me quite yet. They took me up to the delivery suite, and I was like, I'm really sorry, you know, I was 34 weeks 6 at this point. So this is like the Thursday. I'm 34 weeks 6, it's still very early. There's no pattern, blah, 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 blah. They strapped me up to a monitor. They couldn't find Reuben's heartbeat, but because they also put a different monitor on, they were like, we can see the contractions, we think the baby's fine, but we can't technically find his heartbeat. So we had to get a consultant. The consultant came, and they wanted to put, there's a thing where that you can put, obviously with a baby still inside you, that they can put on the baby's head and monitor their heartbeat, but you're not allowed that until you're 35 weeks. And they were like, well, she's 34 weeks and 6, can we do it? And the consultant's like, no, it has to be 35 weeks. You'll have to wait till midnight. While the consultant was there, he checked and decided I was 4.5 centimetres dilated. So even though I never had proper, like, patterned contractions, I was 4.5 centimetres. So John was then allowed to come up. And I did not have a fancy birth plan. Like, I've had friends and they've had playlists and they've known exactly what medication they want, and they've wanted water births and they've wanted this birth. And I was like, I will do whatever the medical staff tell me, but I would like all the drugs. I was like very clear that I wanted an epidural. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. We were waiting for the anaesthetist, I can't say the word, the person that gives you the epidural was in surgery with somebody else. So we were waiting for them and they were just giving me gas and air. And then I was like getting quite painful and I was like, John, can you ask them again for me? Like, I had all these midwives running around me, but I was like, John, can you ask them please? And at that point we were told that it was too late and just had to do it on gas and air. And yeah, basically they were monitoring the contractions, and I was having these strange contractions where I was having like a proper real strong contraction, and then the second contraction was actually quite light. So if we had actually stayed at home and waited for them to be 5 minutes apart, it would have never have happened and John would have been catching this baby. So yes, so John was with me. He held my hand, and my main midwife was a lady called Julie. She was just lovely, lovely lady. But there was a whole team of them in there helping in the end because, Reuben in the end came quite quickly. He was born at 17 minutes past midnight. And yes, unfortunately we ruptured, I say we, I ruptured the placenta. It broke up when that was being delivered. I actually say my passing the placenta was actually a lot longer and probably worse than actually giving birth. Because it broke up, they weren't sure if it'd all come out, and that took over an hour, that process. And at one point they were saying we might need to go in and take it out, you know. So Reuben was quite old. He was a couple of hours old before I got to hold him because I was delivering the placenta, which was not fun. Sorry if you're in a slightly different angle, things had to be moved. But yes, so the placenta was not fun. That took quite a while. So say Reuben was a little bit old, like a couple of hours old before I got a proper cuddle. John luckily was able to hold him for most of that before they took him off to the NICU. So yes, he was born at 17 minutes past midnight. He weighed 5 pounds 10 ounces, and pretty much perfect. They had to put him on a tube to be nose fed because obviously I think it's standard practice for when they're that prem. And we were allowed to spend a little bit of time together in the NICU as a family, the three of us. But then it got to about 4:30 and they said that I had to go down on the ward and John had to go home. And yes, me and Mr. Reuben spent 2 weeks at the hospital, mostly because he was still being nose or tube fed. He also had some jaundice issues, which are now all sorted. I had a few blips. It's that thing, you're in hospital and you're a new mum and it's like, hang on, why are you doing blood tests on me? But I'm fine. The way it kind of worked in the end is I was sent home with more medication than Reuben was. But I suppose it's that thing, they're looking after mum and baby, not just baby. But yeah, I spent, say, 2 weeks. Me and Mr. Reuben spent 2 weeks in the hospital, just getting him able to come home, really. Part of that was the jaundice, and then obviously getting him not being tube fed. So he is currently being fed by the bottle. It's all breast milk. Not that there's any judgment for anyone that's doing formula. Reuben did have formula for the first couple of days because my milk hadn't come in, because he was born when I was 35 weeks pregnant. It's like, he is a month old now and we're still not at his due date, which is crazy. So yes, we are doing a little bit of breastfeeding, but he has this very small tongue tie, and it just takes him a lot of energy to breastfeed. Him, not me. It'd be easier for me if we were breastfeeding, a lot easier. But you know, you've got to do what's best for the baby, and Reuben seems to prefer bottle, or I'd say it's less effort for him, but we are still, you know, I'm expressing like every 2.5 hours. So we are fully on breast milk at the moment. And that's pretty much it. He currently, or the last time he was weighed was 6 pounds 10? 6 pounds 8? Oh God, I'm a bad mum. I can't remember his weight. The reason I'm a bit hazy, it was a while ago. The health visitor's coming tomorrow to re-weigh him. And he's had his hearing test and that was all fine. We are waiting on an appointment to go and see our GP for his 6 weeks stuff. But that's not come through yet. But yeah, he is absolutely perfect. That is an extremely long video. Mostly about my waters being broken, because that was more traumatic to me than the actual birth. Oh, I don't know. People in real life ask this. Did I require stitches? Yes. What's the other question I get asked a lot? Breastfeeding or formula, we are expressing. We're trying a couple of times every day, and he'll probably do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there on the breast, but he's not getting a full meal that way. So, and it's also because he's so little, we still have to monitor how much he's eating to make sure he's getting enough. So that is easier when you can see your milk on the bottle. Currently using disposable nappies. What else is the question? Will we do it again? Give me a bit more time. But yeah, that is kind of it. If you have any Reuben related, baby related questions, feel free to ask it in the below and I will do a Q&A video. Yeah, this is super long and rambly. But yes, how am I finding being a new mum? Overwhelming. I'm like, I still can't quite believe he's here. I can't quite believe we've been this lucky. It's crazy. I've not cried since I've left the hospital, but I cried a lot while we were in hospital. But yeah, very blessed, very lucky. And yeah, but say the waters breaking was more traumatic than the birth and labour, and the placenta thing was worse than the labour, the birth. But yes, that is my very rambly long video. If you've made it to the end, blew in, you get a sticker, well done. But yeah, any questions, let me know. Thank you for your kindness and your support and all the love that we've had over all social media. And yes, I'm going to stop rambling now. Take care guys, and I'll talk to you in the next one.